let's get into the process of how to make this superfood. Here's what you're going to need. A cabbage. This recipe calls for 1,000 grams. My cabbage is 800 grams, so I'll reduce my salt just a little bit. We're going to use a Himalayan or sea salt. You don't want to use regular salt as it often contains caking agents which will negatively impact your sauerkraut. I'm today using bay leaves. You can also use juniper leaves or juniper berries or caraway seeds or any spices or flavorings of your choice. So it really is something you can experiment with. But bay leaves do taste good in my opinion. And we've got 3 mason jars. You can use other kinds of jars or a specialty fermentation jar, but I find that these work just fine. Also got a wooden spoon, a bowl, and some chopping knives, and my wooden cutting board. It's really simplistic and not difficult to get the materials for this. All right, so here is the acronym that I want you to remember. Kathy paid with fake currency. Let's say it again. Kathy paid with fake currency. So chop, pound, fill, and cover. Chop, pound, fill, and cover. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate 2 ways to make this, one by hand and one in my Thermomix. If you don't have a Thermomix, you can also use a regular food processor. So first thing we're going to do is step 1, chop. We're going to chop this cabbage into 1/4 inch pieces. I'm also going to take the core out. With this side, I'm going to cut it into 1/4 inch pieces. Now you can make them bigger slices or smaller slices depending on your preference. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you how big or small you want these pieces to be. The next thing you're going to want to do after chopping, and this is the hardest part if you don't have a food processor, the next thing you're going to want to do is wash this in a colander. Step 2 is pound. When we do it by hand in the bowl, we're basically going to use a wooden spoon or a potato masher, even the bottom of a jar, your fists. We're going to want to release as much cabbage juices from this as we can. This is the part I normally ask my husband to help with. In the Thermomix, I've chopped up the cabbage, the half of cabbage. All right, let's take a look. All right, looks pretty good to me. Now we're going to do step number 2, pound. Now this makes it so much easier. I put it on reverse and put it on for 5 minutes on speed 2. All right, so now we have pounded and processed in Thermomix all of the cabbage. And we're gonna do step number 3, which is fill. I'm going to add, in this case, I'm adding 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt. If you have a 1,000 gram head of cabbage, you can use a full tablespoon. So I'm just taking a regular spoon and kind of guesstimating what I think would be right. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's not an exact science. Okay, so we're gonna stir that in and fill up our jars. I'm also going to add a couple of bay leaves to this. And I personally love the taste of this sauerkraut. It's so good. And the bay leaves just make it taste great. Okay, here we go. Okay, now I found that most of the time, even with the Thermomix and even with all the efforts of pounding we can muster, we still don't have quite enough liquid to cover the cabbage. So in that case, what you need to do is add a saltwater brine. Now saltwater brine, how to make it is 4 cups of water to 1 tablespoon of salt. That's 4 cups of water to 1 tablespoon of salt. So I have made my saltwater brine, and you want to use cool water for it, and that will help aid the fermentation process. So I've used half a tablespoon of salt to 2 cups of water for my salt brine. And again, making sure to use sea salt or Himalayan salt. So I'm just going to add this water until the liquid covers the cabbage. All right, there we go. Step number 4, cover. We cover it, and I like to put a towel around it just to stop the sun and heat from getting into it. And of course I have enough sauerkraut here to make at least 1 more jar. But I put this in a cool space on my counter and for about 3 to 5 days, and your temperature you want to be about 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 15 to 21 degrees Celsius. And like I said, about 3 to 5 days, and then you will transfer it to the fridge. And once it's in the fridge, you can eat it right away, or you can save it for a couple of weeks. It lasts a really long time. You don't have to worry about it going bad. And there you have it. Wonderful homemade sauerkraut. So let's review. Our acronym is Kathy paid with fake currency. That's right. So chop, pound, fill, and cover. Chop, pound, fill, and cover. I think you got it now. Have fun!